Alright, so I want to talk really quick about referencing and what that does for your scene. So referencing is basically functions more or less the same way as doing an import, except instead of basically being a copy and paste of the existing state of the file, when you import it, anytime you update the original file, it's going to update the new file. So I have this weird little basket thing, and I'm just going to be like, cool, apparently I want to put this somewhere not there. Give me 5 seconds. I should really just set my project like a real person, but that requires planning ahead for things. Alright, nope. Alright, so we have this candle scene. So I'm gonna go ahead and just be like, cool, I'll open my day and night scene. And I wanna say get that little bowl into this scene. So what I'm gonna do is go in and actually let me save this as reference. Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and do file. Where am I going? Create reference. You can also do Control R. And you don't need to worry about any of these settings for the most part. I'm going to talk about 1 or 2 of them. So use namespaces is basically going to be, hey, anything you bring into the scene, stick the name of the file in front of it. And I have really long file names, so I always turn that off because it makes me sad. And instead, basically, what it's going to do is resolve all nodes with the file name, which is not what I want. But you can do this string, so I'm going to say basket. So basically, for anything that was in that scene, it's going to tack basket in front of it. So I usually try to keep it short, so it's not like 8 paragraphs long. Go ahead and hit reference, and then find the scene that you want to reference it. In this case, Dynamics Drop version 1. Go ahead and hit continue, and somewhere in the scene we should have a basket of fries, which we do. Now you should be good to go ahead and just like move these up so we have like a lovely candle with a basket of fries just there randomly. So I'm gonna go ahead and be like, cool, this totally makes sense. I'm gonna save that scene. So the fun thing about this is that good lord, if you go up back to the original scene, and you're like, oops, I forgot to add some apples, or like, whatever. You can be like, great, apples. This is an apple, right? I actually have a really nice apple somewhere on my computer. But you can add this in. Once you save this scene, you can go back and open your other scene where you reference that file in, and it should pull that sphere in. And in this case, it's done a weird thing where it's left the sphere here since it'll keep the translation values, so I basically would have to move that up into place. But anything new that you add into that original scene, you should be pretty much good to go in terms of adding that back into... What am I saying? Sorry, that got incoherent. It'll bring in any new files and stuff. So if you delete something from the reference, it'll delete it from this scene. If I try to delete this sphere, you can't do it. You can hide the sphere, but you can't physically delete it without removing it from the original referenced scene. So that's one thing. I usually do, where applicable, try to not add a bunch of extra objects, because sometimes, like I said, that does make things a little bit weird where to like translate them into strange areas. But it can be a pretty powerful way to sort of do things. And this is, like I said, if you're working with a teammate, it's really nice because you can pass rigs back and forth. You can give someone a model that's like mostly finished, and then be like, you can position it in your scene, and as long as they're just sort of, you know, messing with the existing geometry and whatnot, they can send you a new file, and you can just replace the one on your computer, and it'll update the scene automatically without you having to delete the original one, and then re-import the new one, and then move it again. It'll save all of that information for you. So if you ever need to mess with references, and you can always tell that something's referenced because it has this little blue diamond-y thing next to it. But if you ever need to mess with references or like remove a reference from something, there is a way to do that. So if you go up to File again, Reference Editor, it's going to basically tell you all of the references that you currently have in your scene. So if you wanted to, you could turn that off, and it's going to just remove it from your scene. It still sort of like registers that it's there. It's just not really showing you the file in the scene. The fun thing also with referencing is if you're working in the student version of Maya, every single file you reference, if it was made with student Maya, is going to pull up this little window. So whenever you save your thing, you're going to have to click that dialog box like 7 times. It's great. But referencing is really powerful. You can also reload the scene if you want. If you do something, like you go in and you're like, let me change the scene. Ooh, yes, just, nope. Blah, blah, blah. I have no idea where I am in my computer right now. 5 seconds. Sorry, I've been bouncing back and forth between projects like all day. It's great. So if you do something like you change the name of this from dynamics like 2 and you like get rid of the 1 or something weird, it's not going to know, like if you hit reload, it's going to be like, oops, we can't find this. Like you've changed, it's looking for dynamics drop underscore V01. It doesn't, if you save a new version, it's not going to update it. It's only looking for that specific file name. So what you can do is either ignore the reference, you can skip it, which basically kind of turns it off, or you can browse for another file. Where on earth am I? Yeah, I should really set my project when I do this. And when you're browsing for another file, you can basically just go through and... My desktop is a scary, scary place. You can just go through and like pick your other file and be like, cool. Where? Good lord. And then it should update the reference for you. So I've gone through and I've been like, great, update that file. I thought I just did that. And you can, if like, this will make the path change permanent, so it'll never look for the version 1 again if you switch it to version 00. And it should go through, I don't know what it's doing right now, but it should go through and actually set that up. Usually it'll pull it in. I think something about my computer paths is being weird, and also it is very, very bad practice to do what I'm doing and not have your project set when you're referencing. So you should set your projects to begin with, but it'll make your life easier for referencing as well. And then once you set your project, do your referencing after you set the project, otherwise it'll still be like a local path on your desktop or, you know, wherever you've stashed your files. But that's pretty much referencing. You can reference as much stuff into a scene as you want. One thing I recommend against is referencing, so like referencing that weird little bowl into this scene and then referencing this scene into another scene. Sometimes it throws errors. It's also just like really bizarre and like hard to manage. But I have seen a lot of times where that will cause errors, that sort of double referencing stuff. And I don't know if there's a reason for that, but it does seem to cause issues, so I usually recommend avoiding that wherever possible.